Hi, and welcome to Drones for Good from Modus, where we chat to industry insiders about how mapping, LiDAR, drones, and geospatial technology is impacting the world around us. Today, we're in Canada to chat with Cameron Chell, who is the CEO and president of Draganfly. Cameron, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having us today.
No worries at all. It's a pleasure to be chatting with you today. So I've got to ask, what's the weather like up there?
It's gorgeous. I mean, spring has sprung, and yeah, there's the sun shining and great flying weather.
Perfect. Well, that's great to hear. Okay, Cameron, so we'll get right into it. And first of all, I want you to tell me a bit more about Draganfly, because this company has been around for over 2 decades now, hasn't it?
Yeah, Draganfly is often referred to, and as far as I know, we're the oldest commercial drone manufacturer in the world. We've been manufacturing drones since the late 90s. And in fact, a Draganflyer drone was the first drone that was ever credited with saving a human life. And today that drone sits on permanent display in the Smithsonian. So there's not much that our engineering team and AI team and software bench hasn't dealt with, and we've got a long-standing, I think, great record with an incredible team that looks to continue to innovate in the industry.
Okay, so tell me, how have they developed from day one to that drone that was very first used in that rescue operation? How have they progressed and developed to the drones that you're producing today?
Yeah, it's really been a fascinating journey. So, the first drones that we put up actually were drones that just had cameras on them, and we actually, had patents and a lot of innovation around the stability of cameras. And then we actually put the first thermal cameras on drones. Originally, the use case was a lot of agricultural work, but that also got coupled with using the optical sensors, the cameras, and developing software to do things like accident reconstruction for sheriff's departments. So you could measure skid marks, you could even get down to the depth of the skid. You could look at all the debris that's caused by an accident, and literally in minutes you could do what normally would take traffic incident officers hours and hours to do. And we found a niche market and started to commercialize it. That then grew us into developing software around forensics. So using it for crime scene investigation, same idea, evidence collection and such, to map an entire, half a block or a city block or a crime scene in minutes as compared to hours and hours or even days sometime. We then started falling in with some search and rescue teams, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had a search and rescue operation going on for an individual that was missing during a snowstorm in a single car accident. And they deployed a thermal camera on a drone really as an experiment for the first time in inclement weather where a helicopter couldn't fly. The search had been on for 8 hours, and within 20 minutes, the individual was found. And and then just from there, just our ethos and our culture and our opportunity very greatly has been to continue to go down this path of building drones that really do focus in the humanitarian areas, in particular public safety and public service. Up until today, the incredible things that these drones are doing around the world, which just, we thought what we were doing then was cool, and what we're doing now is just mind-blowing.
So one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show today, Cameron, is because of your work in Ukraine. Tell me about how Draganfly is helping the situation there.
Yeah, so we, for the last year and a bit, we have been doing a lot of what's called DFR, drone as first responder work in Texas, in particular with a company called Cold Chain Delivery Services, where we're working with the EMS services in Texas to provide two types of drones. One drone that as soon as a 911 call happens is deployed on location. So as soon as the trucks roll, the drone rolls. And it's getting there, 7 to 11 minutes quicker than the vehicles or the resources or personnel, and it's able to provide situational awareness as they're arriving on scene. About 20, research has shown that about 20% of all of these calls are showing up as false alarms. So, the ROI alone on this and the deployment of resources or the saving of resources for real emergencies is not just palpable. I mean, it's incredibly quantitative. Not to mention, you can also, is the situation violent? Is it escalating? What's the traffic conditions, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's the first drone. And then the second drone that gets deployed is what we call an MRD, a medical response drone. So this is a drone that can actually get there with equipment. It's a temperature controlled payload. So it might control or house things, excuse me, like EpiPens or insulin or antibiotics or blood, specialized blood types, or even non-temperature sensitive equipment like an AED. And so through that work that we were doing, an organization called Revive Soldiers Ukraine had heard about it through some press or through the industry, and had contacted us and said, hey, we're supplying ambulances over into the Ukraine and they can't get through. They're getting confiscated. They're getting shot. They're getting, we need a different alternative. And so we immediately donated 3 drones to the cause. And put them into theater as quick as possible, have been learning as much as possible about how to operate them, what are the operational procedures, what are the payload capacities, what are the greatest needs over there. And then since then, they've acquired 10 more drones that are going over right now. And there's an additional 3, I believe, that are going over in a couple of weeks. And so we expect orders of about 200 of these drones to be in place by about the end of August. And the learnings and the impact are just unbelievable, way beyond anything we ever expected.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So 200 ultimately will be over in Ukraine. So have you had any updates and feedback about just how your drones are being implemented over there?
Well, we're actually going in country here in the next week, and so we'll be coming back with a lot of data. We do have a lot of data, much of which we can't share, but we do know that we've made major modifications to the drones that we've put in theater, things like anti-jamming capabilities, very sophisticated communication, very sophisticated encryption, procedural flights. Like when you're flying a drone, what do you need to do to make sure that it doesn't get shot at? And you didn't, not shot by necessarily enemy combatants, but anytime a drone goes up, it's a threat to everybody. And so, the notion that a drone is there for humanitarian reasons as opposed to, combat reasons is one of the procedural things that we've had to work through. We've modified the drones. The ones that we were working with in Texas actually landed, and personnel would pull the equipment off the top out of the thermal box. Well, people are not going to run out to get a drone and pull equipment or blood or antibiotics or whatever in the middle of a potential dangerous situation. So we've modified them with drop winches, and so they basically come in autonomously, hover within about 3 feet of the ground, drop the payload, and they're out of there very quickly. So as long as that drone is always moving and not hovering, it doesn't generally possess a threat to the people on the ground, or it's not looked at by friendly or unfriendly. And so we've learned a lot of those things. We've modified a bunch of stuff, and we've really come up with a drone and a process that's making the impact. In terms of the specific areas that it's going to, you can't disclose those right now, but I can disclose that the most prevalent delivery right now is there's 3 of them. It's insulin, antibiotics, and rape kits. Those are the 3 big things that are being delivered in quantity now.
And can I just double check? So you said rape kits. Is that what you said? The third?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's kind of mind blowing. And why is there such a need for rape kits in Ukraine right now?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but again, the impact. Oh, it just breaks my heart. But the impact that it has getting this equipment in there, it's just the ROI, if I can speak to it in that regard, is unparalleled. And I think it's a big part of now drones being cemented as part of not just warfare, but part of theater and humanitarian aid and our entire ecosystem. The good that these things can do, and the things that they can do that couldn't be done before are beyond what we had previously anticipated.
Wow, yeah, like you say, it's just really mind-blowing, but fantastic work, obviously, that your drones are being able to assist with over there. So talk to me a little bit about what else Draganfly's drones are used for when it comes to either humanitarian or environmental issues. I know that you said to me that mine detection and environmental monitoring are 2 other big areas in which the company is focusing on right now. Talk to me a bit more about that, Cameron.
Yeah, so in fact, we just announced a new LiDAR system today, as a matter of fact. And so we have a new proprietary long-range LiDAR system that we've used industrially. Now, this is a LiDAR system that typically had to be on a helicopter or an airplane before. It's now been purpose-built for us to be able to go on a helicopter, an airplane, a backpack, a drone, and it's carried by our heavy lift drone in the area of theater, wherever it may be. So we're using sensors like LiDAR, magnetometers, hyperspectral cameras, thermal imaging, all in combination to look for anomalies on the ground. So there's about 80,000 square kilometers, as I understand it, that have been mined, just in the Ukraine, not to mention the rest of the world. And it is still done all by ground. So we're working very hard to develop this product out more and deploy it very quickly. And in fact, we've got people on the ground next week in the Ukraine that are actually deploying and building the additional models for that particular area, depending on the types of mines or hazards that may be, and that could be unexploded ordnance or whatever the case is. But it's really a combination of multi-sensors in order to utilize the data inputs and the machine vision to come up with the anomalies that are on the ground, but then help direct the ground forces, if you will, that need to actually go and remove the mines from theater. So we expect this to be groundbreaking in terms of speed, efficiency, and safety out there. Also, some other exciting areas are environmental monitoring. So we already do some of this with things like sour gas and methane in industrial applications. But now we're looking and being able to deploy and do things like radiation or chemical testing as well. Again, things that have incredible efficiency utilizing drones that were never really even able to be done before. So it's game changing. Every one of these things is game changing. And it's, and again, hopefully it's a testament, to help people see and understand, the use of drones and the applications that they're going to be put toward.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. And you said to me right at the beginning, just before we came on air, that a little kind of unknown fact, I suppose, about Draganfly is you're actually a public company, aren't you? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, we are. So we've been around a long time, and we've been a small company for a long time, simply because the commercial drone space really hasn't been that big. Now the military space is big and growing, and the consumer space or the prosumer space has been prevalent, but the commercial space is really incredibly dependent on regulation, and justifiably so. And so as we've seen regulation progress over the last 10 or 15 years, it's now finally gotten to a point where commercial enterprises are looking at and saying, hey, we have clarity on what's going to happen with things like beyond visual line of sight, which is really the key regulation, right? Or operations over populations. And so as we started to see that happen as well, we took the initiative to go public, raise a significant amount of capital, and scale up our manufacturing and R&D capabilities in order to meet this demand. So, I mean, we'll never meet the demand in the market for the next number of years that's coming to us, especially given the fact that we like to really innovate with our software and our sensors and of course our engineering. And so so we trade on the NASDAQ. DPRO is our symbol, and it's been just a boom for us in terms of getting exposure and credibility of our Fortune 5000 customers looking at us and saying, okay, hey, listen, this is a solid company that we can deal with. So.
Well, it certainly sounds like exciting times are ahead at Draganfly, but tell me a little bit about what's in store. So you mentioned about, this new LiDAR system, which sounds fantastic, but what's next for Draganfly?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to really continue to stay focused in the public safety and public service market. We do think that delivery in those areas will be the first kind of vertical mass market and lead into then consumer deliveries and things like that. But we believe that public service market will be the first to lead the way in terms of delivery. We're going to stay very focused as well on our sensor work. We don't have people generally coming to us saying, hey, do you have a drone that can, stay up 5 minutes longer or fly 500 feet higher? We have organizations that are coming to us are saying, hey, we need a solution. we need security for 23 ports, and we need environmental monitoring, and we need, all of these different aspects of things to be able to do. And so we're going to continue to work on our sensors. And in fact, about a year and a half ago, we developed our camera systems to be able to read vital signs. So our cameras from drones can actually read things like heart rate, respiratory rate, blood pressure, blood oxygen level, heart rate variability. And if you think about that applicability in a first responder situation where you have drones coming into, disaster areas, and you're trying to triage, which survivors need to be dealt with, or what equipment or supplies you need to get to them, this is the type of things that real deep solutions that we'll focus on an ongoing basis in order to serve society.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting chatting with you today. If people want to know more about Draganfly, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. If you come to draganfly.com, that's DRAGAN fly.com, Draganfly.
Yes, I always have to make a note of that. That was a good save there. So it's Dragan and not Dragon. Yes, yeah. Very important.
So come to us at draganfly.com. And there's lots of ways to contact us there. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with anybody and how we could potentially work together.
Well, as I've said, Cameron, it's been great speaking with you today. And if you've enjoyed today's show, don't forget to follow us, hit like, and obviously you can check out all of our links in our comments below. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time on Drones for Good from Modus.